Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about social entrepreneurship, and I want to start first with this question. Assume that you had $1 million and that you wanted to help people. What would you do with that $1 million? Just assume that you have all of you have money to, this is extra, you have all the other money that you need. You've got an extra $1 million and you want to help people. What would you do? I want you to think about that for a minute. It's important to think about that before we talk about some of the other stuff that we'll do. Pause it, pause the video, and then we'll come back. So let's talk about some of the approaches that people have used to do good, and then we'll come back to the question that I asked you before. There's been kind of two approaches to doing good, and I'll just contrast them with some polar, opposites. The first is like Rockefeller. You earn a bunch of money, you make money, as much money as you can, and then near the end of your life, you start giving it away, and then maybe you keep giving it away after you're dead if you have enough money, which is what Rockefeller did. The alternative approach is that you want to help people, and so you just try to focus on helping and not trying to accumulate any money and just giving. And so these are kind of the two standard approaches, and they can be complementary. Rockefeller can give money to people like Mother Teresa. But one thing that's concerning is that despite, even with these two approaches, we still have some really pressing problems in the world. And so recently there's been a new approach to dealing with problems, and some of the people that you might not be familiar with, or some that you might be familiar with, like Bill and Melinda Gates, working with Bono. This guy over here is Pierre Omidyar, one of the founders of eBay. This guy is Nicholas Negroponte, who works in the MIT Media Lab and created this little laptop called the Buy One Get One laptop for really poor countries. These new approaches, they're solving similar problems, but they're going about it in different ways. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this short video. So the word social entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurial, that has become kind of popular, and some of it is just rhetoric, but some of it is actually different from what has been done before. So social entrepreneurship imports some of the logics, the ways of thinking from finance. So people are starting to use more terms like invest in social programs or social return on investment. And you'll even hear this on like KNPR when they do a fundraising drive. Sometimes it's just words. They try to make donations sound more palatable by using those words. One thing that is different, though, is that there's more and more focus on metrics. And the underlying idea is that just because we want to, or we claim that we're having an impact, doesn't mean that we actually are. So claims doesn't mean results. So we actually want to do a real attempt to see what's being exchanged, to measure what's happening. And there's also a growing belief in social entrepreneurial communities that organizations have to be financially sustainable or even profitable. So that is a difference. That is something that's different from the past, because people like Mother Teresa, or those that are really, really helping, or even those that are giving to causes like that, sometimes when they get into helping mode, they want to make sure that there's not mixed motives. They want to have purely altruistic motives, and this new social entrepreneurial approach is changing that. Just a few definitions. Entrepreneurship is creating a new organization. So social entrepreneurship is creating a new organization that has a specific or explicit contribution to social good. Innovation is transforming ideas into approved products. So social innovation is innovation in which contribution to a social good is significantly defining. So just like we talked about before with finances, you are getting resources and you are giving something in return. So a social entrepreneur can appeal to some of the non-financial motives of their stakeholders in order to get resources. And what's different now is that they're combining financial and social together, whereas before the idea was that they needed to be mixed or separated, strictly separated. So let's just talk a little bit about a few sources. We talked about Prosper before. Prosper can be seen as a way of achieving a social good, which is helping people to get money for lower interest rates. They have similar programs for developing countries, so you can loan money to individual people in poor countries throughout the world. So Kiva, which was started by some entrepreneurs that were in Stanford Business School, they facilitate loaning to microfinance institutions in developing countries. So let's just look here at mostly developing countries. I guess they have some U.S. So you can see who needs the loan, what they're going to use it for, just like Prosper. And then you make the loan to the microfinance institution. And then once that institution gets enough money, they loan out the money to these people that need the money. So it's a good way of helping people. Now, what's social entrepreneurial about it is that you're lending money at a 0% interest rate. So you get the money back. You're not donating, but you're actually lending. So you're combining this helping people idea with the banking type of logic into one transaction. So that's an interesting new model that didn't exist. This started maybe 10 years ago. There's some crowdsourcing websites that focus on this, where you can try to help solve social problems through social innovation. And there's a new way of helping that's called micro-franchising. So franchising is like business in a box. And so these micro-franchises are set up to be able to help people solve problems and at the same time provide some jobs in a sustainable way. So this is CFW shops. They solve the problem of in the developing world, sometimes it's not clear if a pharmacy is really a legitimate pharmacy and they're selling good drugs. So child and family wellness clinics or CFW clinics help to solve that problem by having a branding, and they train the pharmacists and they make sure that the supply of drugs is good. So that solves that problem, and those pharmacists make money. Vision Spring is another interesting organization. They provide access to eyeglasses. So there's individual entrepreneurs that are trained not as optometrists, but they are given very simple techniques for sizing people for basically reading glasses, and they can go around and sell these. And as you can see here, it provides an income for the women that are selling them. I think they're mostly women, but like for this had a published study showing that it increased their worker productivity because that now they have glasses and they can see better to sort their agricultural produce or whatever. So that's another thing. Again, so you're combining a for-profit model but trying to solve a social, in this case, a health issue. The last example here is Barefoot Connect. Again, this is, I guess that website isn't working, but Barefoot Connect is another micro-franchise group that helps to get solar power into hard-to-reach areas, and then they do it through micro-franchising. There's a lot of organizations out there. I'll just list these. You can come back to them if you want. But basically, these organizations are supporting this idea of social entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurs throughout the world. We would discuss this more in the social entrepreneurship class, but I just kind of want to give you a teaser of that. There's even competitions specifically for a couple just for students. Again, trying to solve social problems through business. There's a global social venture competition, a social entrepreneurship competition, and these are, these didn't exist before. These are new approaches to solving social issues. While we don't have a focus here at UNLV, there are many schools that are increasingly focused on this. There's a lot of interest from many students that are trying to change the world, but they're trying to do it through business, through some for-profit or hybrid business model. And so I'd encourage you to look into that. So that's a little bit about social entrepreneurship. It's just a teaser, but if you're interested in it, definitely talk to me more about this. I do research in this area, and it's kind of an area of my expertise. And at some point we will have a social entrepreneurship class here at UNLV. Thanks.